and welcome back to the Cruel Corner. Unfortunately, there is no race for me to evaluate or to review of the Formula E. Season 11 has very much come to a close now, sadly, and congratulations once again goes to Oliver Rowland for clinching the Season 11 championship in style, it must be said. He did all the legwork in the early races, win after win, podium after podium. It came a little bit unstuck towards the end of the season, but he got enough of a points deficit to just be able to chill out, relax, max, and enjoy. So yeah, congratulations to Oliver Rowland, clinching the title before we even got to the doubleheader at London. And yeah, very well happy, really happy for Ollie. A Yorkshire lad, a Yorkshire lad. Go on, lad. He deserved it. He really did. This video, of course, though, is all about evaluating how the teams got on this season. So before the start of the season, I predicted where I thought the teams were going to finish at the end of the campaign, where they would line up in the team standings, which teams would do really well, which teams would do really badly, which teams would sort of be in the middle, shall we say. So yeah, we're going to evaluate that now. I predicted it after all the assessments I had was just based on the winter testing program that happened before the season started, and what drivers they'd signed, etc. So we're going to find out which teams I got really right and which teams I got really wrong. So we'll start at the bottom and work our way to the top. So in 11th place, and actually finishing in 11th place, I predicted the brand new team, of course, of the Lola apt Yamaha squad, Yamaha Lola apt, whichever way round it goes. There's three words there and I've never quite worked out which way is the correct way round. Still haven't. But yes, I predicted them to finish in 11th, last in the standings, and that is where they have been. There's been some races where we've seen some genuine progress from them, even though sometimes it didn't lead to a points finish. You could see that they were in the mix and always fighting on the fringes of points. And then you came to the final weekend at London where you thought that all this development over the course of the season, they'd, you know, be somewhere there or thereabouts. And sadly for them, they were just trundling around at the back for the most part. And it was a crazy last race of the season and Lucas was able to pick up a couple of points there. But yeah, it didn't really tell the true picture. They looked like little lost souls in the final round of the season, and that's not really what you want a new team to look like. Over the course of the previous 15 rounds, you'd have thought, right, okay, we get to round 16, the last race of the season here at London. You'd expect a bit more forward progress, and it just didn't happen. There were some races that they were really fighting, they were in the mix, they were in the gaggle. And then other races where they were absolutely nowhere. So it's going to be interesting to see how they get on for season 12, because I'm very much unsure how they're going to get on. The yo-yo in effect, there was no ever gradual progress. It was either they were down at the bottom all the time, or they were suddenly shooting up there and aiming for the stars, or then they were back down again. Yeah, be an interesting one to see how they're going to get on for season 12. But yeah, I predicted them, of course, being a brand new team, to have a very challenging season, and they did have a challenging season at times. We had one podium, of course, to celebrate as well. That was sort of lucky, but Lucas had the pace all weekend long in that particular race to score some points, and then because of penalties ahead for other drivers not taking attack mode, he got promoted to a podium position. So fair play to them for that, really. They got it right on that occasion, but we've seen so many occasions where they got that wrong. Simple things, making big mistakes there. So Lucas Di Grassi did a great job this season. Zane Maloney, the only driver not to score a single point this season in any form. You know, even drivers just coming in for an odd round or two to replace someone that was off for the World Endurance even scored a point or two as the season went on. Zane Maloney, the only driver to not pick up a solitary point, but that's a shame. You know, there were a couple of occasions where we crossed the line inside the points, but penalties for not taking attack modes or for contact dropped him back outside of those points. So it's a difficult one, really. Difficult season for Zane Maloney, but I think he's done a good job, really, with the situation he's been given. A brand new driver, a brand new rookie into a brand new team in a brand new championship. For him, it's a completely different kettle of fish, isn't it? So I hope he gets the second chance. And if he does, I think he'll do a lot better. Lucas Di Grassi, of course, very much forward in, pushing the team forward, and did get that one good podium, got some impressive qualifying performances in there as well, and picked up all of the team's points. So yeah, 11th is where I predicted them, 11th was where they ended up, and I don't think anyone really expected anything more of that. In 10th place, I predicted the Kirro Quid Pro Status Quo, Don't Break My Heart, My Achy Breaky Heart team, the Kirro team, the Kirro Cupra, what they are. Predicted them 10th, and that is where they finished. But this does not tell the true story, does it? It's a season of what could have been for the Kirro squad. They could have finished a couple of places higher than this 10th place in the standings. They only finished a few points behind their nearest rival that ended up 9th in the end. But there were so many missed opportunities. They had David Beckman, who really had a struggling rookie season, finally picking up 1 point in the final race of the season, courtesy of his own teammate having several penalties. which elevated him to 10th and knocked Dan Tinctum outside the points. It's the only point he got all season. So had you had 2 Dan Tinctums in the car that scored 80 points for the team, you'd have been on 160 points and they'd have been a lot higher up in the standings this year. So that's unfortunate. It's another season of what could have been for them, really. The Porsche powertrain I was predicting to be strong at the start of the season and then tail away. It ended up being the opposite, actually. They had a difficult start to the season. They were still picking up points here and there, and it was looking okay, like, yeah, a 9th place, an 8th place. But then this sudden, latter stages of the season where Dan Tinctum was able to clinch pole positions, he was able to get fastest laps, he was able to get podiums, and then got 1 victory as well. So he had a really good end to the season, as mentioned, scoring 99% of all the points, apart from that 1 point Beckman did achieve. Had Dan Tinctum's final weekend in London gone as it should have done, he got a penalty for Mitch Evans' contact, and that demoted him from the pole position that he should have had in round 16. Started 6th, got involved in silly gaggles and shenanigans, picked up 10 seconds worth of penalties. They could have finished 9th, even just without that. So a difficult weekend for Dan Tinctum in that final race. Put pay to them finishing any other higher than 10th. But the most part, it was David Beckman, unfortunately, that really didn't deliver on many occasions at all, to be honest. We had some sort of good drives from him, but never quite in the points. And then a points paying position at the end was little to no consolation at all, really. So yeah, I predicted them to finish 10th. They did finish 10th, but had they had 2 Dan Tinctums in that car, they could have been a lot higher up. In 9th place, this is where we got it drastically wrong. I predicted Mahindra. And of course, we're going to be talking about them a lot further up the list because they finished a lot further higher. So we're going to talk about the actual team that actually finished in 9th place, which was Maserati. Just managing to score over a century of points, 104, something like that. Yeah, what a tough season for them. They had some highlights to start the season off with. China, JQ's got his maiden podium for the team, of course, switching from the McLaren squad. Where he had success with them in the past, but this was the first time he got a podium for the Maserati squad. Then we had a very fortunate situation with a pit boost for Stoffel van Dorn. He took the pit boost, the car came out of the pits, he was half a lap down, of course, due to the length of time. Then we had a red flag. He'd taken his pit boost, no other driver had. He then had a massive lead to go off and sail into the sunset to secure a victory there. And that was nice. Great strategic play by the team, got them a victory. But those are the highlights, really. The rest of the points have come from the odd 1s and 2s and occasional top 5 finish from Van Dorn. JQ's, I couldn't tell you the last time he actually finished inside the top 10. I could have looked, but I really couldn't have been bothered to because it's just been a frustrating season for JQ's. Stoffel van Dorn, of course, he's certainly not had a perfect season either, but he has scored the bulk of the points, the bulk of the team's points. But yeah, there's been nothing really special or spectacular coming the way of the Maserati squad at any stage. We had that great victory, great strategic game for the victory. We had a good couple of podiums here and there, but this second half of the season really, it's been a challenge to even scrape inside the top 10, and that's a big shame for both drivers, really. So yeah, 9th in the standings overall for Maserati. I predicted them to finish 6th, so I weren't giving myself high praise for them, but I was expecting them to finish further up the order than 9th. In 8th place, I predicted McLaren, but they didn't actually finish there. They finished in 6th, so we'll talk about the actual team that finished in 8th place, and that is Envision. Envision. Now, I actually predicted them to finish 7th this season, and I still got my expectations wrong with them, and they still managed to finish lower than I expected them to. A bit like last season, actually, because last season I predicted them to finish 3rd, I think, and they finished 6th, and this season I was like, well, I don't hold out much hope, I'll put them 7th. Here they are in 8th. And the fact that they're, 8th is still a, had it not been for the Boemi podiums that we saw in the latter half of the season, even a Boemi victory, I don't know what the hell happened there. They'd have been outside the points massively. There was one stage they were last in the standings. There was at one point this season they were last. That's behind the brand new team of Lola. Like, it's just unbelievably bad, and for the most part they were farting around in 9th, 10th standing in the standings. Here they are elevated to 8th in the final whistle, so to speak, because of that final podium for Boemi in the final race. So without that, they would have been 9th. So they have had another challenging season. I mean, I had low expectations for them, placing them 7th, but here they are actually finishing in 8th, which is even worse. And somehow they sort of managed to get a lucky 8th at that as well. Had the Kirro, as mentioned, had they had 2 drivers up there, they'd have been ahead of them quite comfortably. Maserati, had they not had the difficult second half that they had, they'd have been ahead of them. So yeah, they're lucky they're not any lower than 8th, to be honest. But yeah, I predicted them 7th and I still got it wrong. Still got it wrong. Only by a place though. Only by 1 place. But yeah, I didn't expect much from Envision, but I expected more than they've had this season, which is a great shame. So yeah, that's a difficult one for Envision once again. What they're going to do next season, I've got no idea. Looking to retain both drivers once again for another season. Yeah, I don't know what's going wrong, but it's clearly not working, is it? They're just tumbling down the order with every passing season. Just a couple of seasons ago, they were teams champions, knocking on the door of a driver's title. Yeah, and now they're seemingly happy with an odd podium here and there and trundling round outside the points for the most part. Sebastian Buemi did all the heavy lifting, of course, with a victory and a couple of podiums. Robin Freitz didn't get any better finish than 8th this season at any one stage, I think it was. Maybe scraped into a 7th with penalties, but yeah, it's been Buemi's heavy lifting. Freitz has done nothing, and even then, it could only get him 8th. 7th place, you already know, I predicted Envision to finish, and they didn't finish here, but who did finish down here in 7th? It is Andretti. Oh God, I put them 3rd. I put them 3rd this season. I thought Jake Dennis and Nico Muller, what a cracking lineup. They're going to do some really good things, some really big things. They're going to do amazingly well. They're going to be knocking on the door of the championship. No. We're talking about them here in 7th place. And again, there were some places that were lower than this. Sometimes of the season they were lower than 7th in the standings. Andretti. It's been really tough, don't get me wrong. I think they've been the most unluckiest team on the grid in terms of, like, it's not been a driver error, it's been a mechanical fault, it's been them getting taken out. You know, you just have to look at the last round at London where Muller got taken out twice in 2 races. Once by Ollie Rowland, then they had a coming together with Sam Bird in a race as well, didn't he? And then got punted off by Norman Nato, was it? So, you know, just look at that and you can see how bad the season's gone. We've also had moments where, you know, Dennis has been knocking on the door of a podium and then the car's broken down, and there's just been a difficult one, and every time you see an Andretti involved in something you just think, oh, not again, you know. So there was definitely more on the cars this season. The single lap pace wasn't there, the race pace wasn't really there this year either. It's like they've sort of role reversed it, you know. It's some days they were struggling for single lap pace, some days they were struggling for race pace, other days they were struggling for it all together for both of them, and it's just a huge shame. Jake Dennis scored the majority of the points for Andretti, but as I already mentioned, talking about Nico Muller, it doesn't represent what really Nico was capable of this season. I think he had left a lot on the table, but not all of it was his own fault. He was involved in a lot of incidents and accidents, and just getting being in the wrong place at the wrong time, you know. He'd be the one that had taken attack mode, and then he'd have a safety car, so he lost 4 places taking the attack, then lost the attack mode because he's behind a safety car. That summed up Nico Muller's season, to be honest, and summed up Andretti's season as well. A lot of mechanical issues, a lot of silly incidents that they weren't a fault of, they just got involved. Wrong place, wrong time. Poor single lap pace, or they'd have good single lap pace but then poor race pace, or vice versa. And they're always in the danger zone, and that's a great shame. So yeah, I predicted these to finish 3rd, and here they are, actually finishing in 7th. Big shame, that. Really big shame. In 6th place, as you already know, I predicted Maserati to finish here, and the actual people finishing in 6th place is McLaren. And this can all be attributed to by the fantastic rookie in Taylor Barnard. What a fantastic season Taylor has had. He has delivered some fantastic drives this season. He really has. He's not looked like a rookie at any stage of the season, really, has he? Okay, we might have had a couple of races where he's only picking up a couple of points here and there, but some days that was just the McLaren not having its A game, really, not suited the track, not got the setup quite right. But, you know, countless podiums, a pole position. He's been breaking records. He's done a stunning job for a 21-year-old lad, hasn't he? You know, he comes into the sport and he just drives really well. He's been managed by Ollie Rowland, and you could tell where it's rubbed off on him in terms of, like, the performance, how he's able to manage the energy, how he's able to manage the race as well and allow it to come to him. He's really got that down to a T, you know, being part of Ollie Rowland's programme, and then racing against him and often beating him as well in the latter stages of the season. He's been caught up in some unfortunate incidents as well, racing around in a podium place a couple of races ago and then got punched off by Eduardo Mortara, which was unfortunate. We of course saw at London, no points at all, again unfortunate incidents and accidents that weren't really his fault, just wrong place, wrong time. And yeah, it's been a shame. You know, there's been more on the cards for Taylor Barnard this season. He managed to finish inside the top 5 in the drivers' standings overall. At one stage, he was looking like a realistic title contender as well, but as we mentioned, it ebbed away when he started getting involved in unfortunate incidents that weren't his fault, and the McLaren pace sort of faded away. But yeah, Taylor Barnard has been the star of the season, really. Not just for McLaren, but the whole championship. He really has managed to just come in, dominate his teammate in Sam Bird, who we now believe is no longer going to be in Formula E going forward. Sam Bird, there's not really much can be said. He's been a great mentor, though, for Taylor Barnard. You know, the relationship they've had has been really strong. It's been really nice to see. And although Sam Bird can't bring the results on track anymore, it's clear to see that, you know, he's had a really struggling season. He has been able to offer his knowledge to Taylor Barnard, and that's clearly played a big part behind the scenes. So fair play for Sam for that. You know, he's been really supportive of Taylor. And yeah, Sam Bird hasn't had another good season, as he's failed to deliver, really. Been trounced by his teammate. And again, had they had 2 Taylor Barnards in that car, this McLaren team could be looking at 3rd, 2nd in the standings potentially. You know, mounting a serious title effort with both drivers as opposed to just one at certain stages of the season. But yeah, Sam Bird, it's looking like he's out of Formula E now. Of course, McLaren pulling out of the sport as well. So this is the last time I'm ever going to really talk about them. But yeah, what a fantastic rookie they have brought into the championship with Taylor Barnard. Looking like he's going to be with a Stellantis powertrain team for next season, be that Maserati or DS Penske, we're not sure yet. And of course, Sam Bird looking like he's not going to be inside Formula E again. But I would love to see him go into the management side of role and mentor Taylor still. I think that would be a fantastic opportunity for Sam to keep his foot in the door, and also a brilliant opportunity for Taylor as well, because it clearly worked well. You know, Taylor, 2 good mentors around him there, you know, being part of Ollie Rowland's programme and also having Sam Bird alongside him. So if he can keep that going forward into another season, there's no reason why he can't go and win the bloody thing. So yeah, congratulations to Taylor Barnard this season. Unfortunately for McLaren, 6th in the standings. It could have been a lot better. It could have been. And for Sam Bird, unfortunately, his time has come to an end in Formula E, but he was always on borrowed time after that difficult Jaguar season, wasn't he? But yeah, McLaren, I predicted to finish in 8th. They actually finished in 6th. In 5th place, I predicted the Nissan team to finish here, but they didn't finish in 5th. The team that did finish in 5th was DS Penske. DS Penske, and they were running round inside the top 4 in the team's championship for quite a number of races, in quite pretty much the whole season, to be honest. But then the momentum of the Jaguar team sort of like swung the other direction. They came charging through, scoring podiums, victories, points all the time. DS Penske sort of tailed off a little bit, and then the final race of the season, Mahindra were able to score enough points to leapfrog them over them to get from 5th into 4th, and that led DS Penske to finish here in 5th place. It's been a difficult one for the DS Penske squad, and at times they've just been nowhere. They really have been nowhere. You know, it seems like, you know, you come on a weekend and you sort of think, well, the pace of that DS Penske is going to be about 6th and 7th place for them both. Maxi Gunter and, of course, Jean-Eric Vergne. But again, some weekends they'll turn up and deliver absolutely nothing, and then other times you'll see them right up there, but then it not quite work out, then they end up tumbling down. And P6, P7 was really always where you saw the DS Penske cars. Gunter has had a season a bit like Nico Muller for the Andretti squad. Expected big things from him, expected him to do really well, but he's just been involved in unfortunate incidents. He's had breakdowns as well, of course. He's had his fair share of mechanical issues compared to Jean-Eric Vergne. Jean-Eric Vergne, of course, has been the main stalwart of that team and has really delivered the results when they're able to come. Maxi Gunter has had flashes of brilliance, but sometimes it's not quite delivered, not quite being consistent enough, and that's not just him, that's the team as well. But yeah, DS Penske, there's not really a lot to say about them because it's just been a bit of a mystery with them. You know, they've always been there or thereabouts, but never any higher than that. They've never really gone above and exceeded expectations. It's very rare they've ever come below expectations. They've always just been in that fair to middle intersection, plodding along, and I think because they both had consistent drivers at the time, they've always been picking up points every single weekend more often than not. That's what's netted in the P5 as opposed to any sort of glamorous positions like a victory, a podium, you know. It's just been steady away, pick up the points and keep running with it. And because other teams have dropped the ball and there's been involved in accidents and things, that's just led them to chip away and finish here in 5th. But overall, you know, they were running around inside the top 4 throughout the most part of the championship, but then lost it at the final furlong. But yeah, for the DS Penske squad, Jean-Eric Vergne's done a great job as always, been solid. and Maxi Gunter has also been solid. Sometimes he's been inconsistent, but sometimes his car on his side of the garage has been inconsistent as well. He's had mechanical issues, he's had unfortunate comings together which aren't his fault, and yeah, had the rough end of the stick for the DS Penske squad, but both have done a solid job. In fourth place, I predicted the DS Penske squad. As I mentioned, they had it right up until the final race, but then didn't quite deliver. The team that actually finished in fourth place is Mahindra. And I predicted these to finish ninth, and I remember saying that they're confident going into this season. I think they're going to do good things. I could see maybe an odd podium for them. I could see, you know, them having a good weekend, and that's what's going to bolster them to ninth in the standings, and they're going to be a comfortable ninth over Kirro and over the new team of Lola Yamaha. But as it is, there they are, finishing in fourth in the standings. They have had a mighty season, and you love to see it. Eduardo Mortara's bad luck has totally gone out the window now. He hasn't really had that much bad luck this season, apart from the usual what you'd expect across a season, whereas last season it was every single time. It was always a Mahindra breaking down, it was Mortara. There was always getting contact, it was Mortara, and it wasn't his fault. You know, this season around has been a fantastic season for him. Nick de Vries clearly a lot more comfortable in his return to Formula E as well, of course. Let's not forget that. Last season was his first season back. This time around in the Gen 3 Evo era, he's hit the ground running, and it's been fantastic, podiums after podium after podium at times. It's like they almost couldn't stop. They were taking it in turns, they were sharing it. It would have been lovely to see a Mahindra double podium. That didn't quite come to fruition, but if one driver was second or third, Nick de Vries, Eduardo Mortara, the other one was always inside the top 10 as well, securing a good points haul for the team at every given opportunity, and that's what happens. They've had some bad luck, don't get me wrong, but they have deserved this fourth in the standings, and some would say as well it's been a little bit unfortunate as well. They've had some unfortunate comings together at times. They've had some unfortunate mechanical issues. Mortara not even been able to take the start, really, of the final round of the season at London. It's an unfortunate one, but, you know, even without that, they would have still been fourth in the standings anyway. They've delivered a great job. They really have. Both drivers, I'm absolutely super thrilled with them. I'm really impressed with the team as well. The momentum that they have made and the progress they have made going forward from last season to where they were just, like, lucky to not finish last in the standings at one point. They're here now, and we sort of think fourth is really, really good, really impressive, but they could have had a little bit more as well. I'm excited to see what the future holds for Mahindra, but I am literally nothing but full of praise for them. Both drivers have done a fantastic job. The team have done an incredible job as well. And yeah, you're disappointed when you don't see a Mahindra inside the top 10, which has very rarely happened. But yeah, you've gone from like, oh, they've scored a point. Isn't that great? You know, just last season to now you think, oh God, Mortara only got ninth. And you're like, well, wow, what happened there? Such a contrasting fortune over the course of 12 months. Thoroughly deserving of Mahindra. I'm glad I got them really wrong. I really am. So I predicted them to finish ninth. Here I am talking about them fourth in the standings. Well done. Really well done. In third place, I predicted the Andretti squad. And as we know, they tumbled all the way down to seventh this season. The team that did actually finish third is Nissan. I predicted them to finish fifth this season. So they're a couple of places higher than I predicted. But yeah, Nissan have really got Ollie Rowlands thank this season. They could have been team's champion this year had they had two Ollie Rowlands in that car without a shadow of a doubt. Norman Nato, unfortunately, I was expecting good things from Norman. I was expecting him to be a solid second driver, but unfortunately he's had a lotterous kind of season, a lotterous style of season where he has scored no points for so long. We saw him pick up a couple of points in the penultimate round here at London at the final doubleheader weekend. But he was replaced by Sete Camara for the doubleheader at Berlin, and Sete Camara was able to get a ninth place finish out of it as well. And we'd not seen Norman score points for quite a while before then either. So, yeah, don't get me wrong, Norman's had a bit of bad luck as well this season. He's been the one that suffered from the power spikes, or power cuts, I should say, where the car just cuts out and then he resets and then goes again. But it costs him a heap of places while he's doing it. And sometimes you don't always see that on the telly. You miss that. You just sort of see him tumble from like that 8th position down to about 14th, and then his race is hindered from there. So I'm not saying that Norman Nato has had the luck that Ollie Rowland has had, but there's been a lot of occasions where you think, well, hang on a minute, Rowland's got pole position here. What are you doing down in 16th, Norman, in qualifying? Why has that happened? Oh, there you go. There's Ollie Rowland winning it and dominating yet another weekend. Norman, why have you finished 12th? There's been a lot of that this season. So, yeah, Ollie Rowland, I can't fault a thing for his first half of the season. Nissan clearly hit the ground running. Norman Nato struggled. And then the second half of the season, the pace of the Nissan did sort of go away. They got caught up by a lot of other teams as well, improving their software over the few weeks gap that they had between races. And it wasn't looking like Rowland was going to be on for victories all the time, but he was always on for podiums and good points, and that was just enough just to keep the other teams and drivers at bay in that Constructors' Championship and in his own Drivers' Championship as well. Like I say, the reason why they didn't win the team standings overall is because Norman Nato did not have the first half of the season that Ollie Rowland had, and they would have finished probably runners-up in the standings had it not been for Ollie Rowland not really caring and just going all flat out, balls to the wall kind of driving mentality, which he got caught up in silly accidents and incidents and didn't pick up any points. So it's a good job he got the job done in Berlin, because yeah, had he driven like that in London, he probably would have lost the title. So yeah, Ollie Rowland did a great job to wrap the season up really nicely. Cost the team some points in the last couple of races though, without a doubt, by just overdriving the car, just trying to have some fun as opposed to actually concentrate on the team standings. Lost a position due to that really. They were running in second until that final stage of the season where they fell down to third. So yeah, still a good season by Nissan. Better than I predicted them to finish as well, let's not forget that. I predicted them 5th, here they are in 3rd. But it could have been a team's title for him. It really could have been. But yeah, Norman Nato is the answer for that, unfortunately. He really didn't deliver for the team, sadly, on so many occasions. And Ollie Rowland did a really good job, of course, but lost them second in the standings by silly driving in the final couple of races at London. In second place, I predicted Jaguar, and that is exactly where they finished. But my, oh my, oh my. The first sort of 7-8 rounds of this season, would we have really said that Jaguar were going to be finishing second? Absolutely not. They were nowhere. Nick Cassidy picked up one solitary point in the first 6 rounds this season. Mitch Evans wasn't much better either. He picked up the victory and then nothing for God knows how long. Well, until his next victory, like 8-9 races later. It was a lot left to be desired for the Jaguar squad. They didn't get their season programme going well at all. They were looking like they were struggling. And I saw the winter testing and the pre-season, and everyone was like, yeah, Jaguar are struggling. I was like, yeah, but they'll get it together. They didn't. But then when they did get it together, it was victory after victory after victory, podium after podium after podium. It was a never-ending sequence for them. Nick Cassidy taking 2 victories on the bounce at London, a pole position as well with that, as well as a fastest lap. He got the clean sweep in the final race, didn't he? Mitch Evans, of course, securing a couple of podiums as well, on top of a couple of victories. But yeah, there was that first half of that season where nothing was coming the way of Jaguar, and I cannot believe they managed to finish runner-up, and Nick Cassidy finished runner-up in the driver's title as well after he was nowhere for so long. It just shows you how crazy Formula E is. But yeah, Nick Cassidy didn't give up. He never surrendered, and he was able to secure runners-up spot and was a big part in getting P2 in the team's title for Jaguar, which is crazy. Absolutely crazy to say. Mitch Evans, of course, as well, had a great drive as well, but he was, of course, always involved in the wrong place at the wrong time kind of antics. Lost his head a couple of times as well over team radio. We don't have to talk about the last round in London to fully know about that. Yeah, great shame really. But yeah, Nick Cassidy is on to bigger and better things. Again, another Stellantis powered train team is coming his way. And we're not sure if it's going to be Maserati or DS Penske. Believed to be Maserati, actually. And I'm sure he'll hit the ground running. It doesn't matter what powertrain that driver has got in the back of it. Nick Cassidy will deliver the goods. He'll be a championship contender next season without a doubt. Jaguar started the season off so badly, but were able to get their act together to finish second in the standings. They were 9th and 10th at one stage in the standings, picking up next to nothing. It was absolutely crackers. But yeah, Mitch got his act together, but had some difficult races, overdrove the car at times. His attitude behind the wheel wasn't fantastic. Nick kept his head down, kept going, delivered win after win, podium after podium, when the car finally was able to deliver those results. So yeah, Jaguar second in the standings. I looked like that was going to be very, very wrong with my prediction at the first half of the season, but boy oh boy, did they turn it around. And then last but by no means least, of course, first in the standings, and exactly where I predicted them, is Porsche. They had to be for me. They were the favourites favourites going into the season. A great lineup in Pascal Wehrlein and Antonio Felix da Costa. Da Costa, of course, as we know, got his act together last season after a difficult start for him in season 10. But yeah, he couldn't stop winning, couldn't stop getting off the podium. Wehrlein, as we know, is a solid driver within Formula E anyway, and delivered the goods on so many occasions previously that this team had to be the favourites, and they were just that. They have secured victory. And yeah, they took it quite convincingly. Okay, it went down to the final wire, it went down to the last round of the season, mathematically anyway, but realistically after Berlin it was over. It was only because, you know, there's that many points available for your pole, your fastest lap, and of course if they get a 1-2 in the race, that Nissan was sort of still in it, Jaguar was sort of still in it, but realistically it was always going to go the way of Porsche after Berlin, and that's exactly the way it did go. The drivers, of course, sort of tailed away towards the end of the season. Pascal Wehrlein losing out to the runners-up spot to Nick Cassidy on the final round, as mentioned. Antonio Felix da Costa finishing inside the top 5 in the championship, but had a rough end to the season where he didn't pick up much points at all, which is a bit of a shame, really, because da Costa had a great season to start off with, but then tailed away. But their points together, cumulative, Pascal got 120 something, and I think da Costa broke just over 100, didn't he? 103, 104, something like that. And that was enough to add together to make them the team's champion. And a worthy team's champion at that, because they've been knocking on the door of it for so long. It's been a year where at least Porsche haven't had the bullshit penalties that we've seen previously, that they always seem to get. Oh, you've not quite written a number down right for your tyre code, so you're going to have to be disqualified after you've just won that race. Oh, your tyre pressures aren't quite right, so you're going to have to be disqualified from that race. Oh, you've used a spring that's coloured red instead of silver now. Even though you can still get it from the Formula E parts truck, we're going to disqualify you for that. So they've had their rough end and fair share of BS from the FIA stewards over the course of the previous seasons, and this time around it was fully deserving of them. They deserved that victory, and securing the team's championship as well as the Constructors champions as well, with the Porsche powertrain overall. So whatever cars had the Porsche powertrain in it, all added together collectively to make them the victors. So yeah, they really did a great job. Teams champions, Constructors championships, and thoroughly deserving of their victory here. So yeah, I predicted them first, and that's exactly where they finished. So then guys, those were my team predictions going into the first part of the season, and how I predicted they were going to end the season. As really mentioned, I got a lot of drivers, teams sort of in the right positions. There was a couple that were drastically wrong though, one being Andretti, of course. I predicted them to finish 3rd, they finished 7th, and of course Mahindra, I predicted them to finish 9th and they finished 4th, so I'd have swapped them around, we'd have been on for a really good score, but as it is, not quite brilliant, but for the most part, drivers and teams mostly within 1 or 2 places. I got the bottom 2 spot on, I got the top 2 spot on. Everything in between was okay. So thank you so much for watching, guys. Let me know what you predicted at the start of the season and how they rounded out the season as well. Look forward to that. That'll be really interesting to know. And yeah, Formula E content comes to an end for now, but it will be back in the December for the start of the season. And season 12, of course, will kick off, and so will another season of the Cruel Corner. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and as always, much love.